Good evening and welcome on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Delaware. My name is Dick Johnson. I'm president of the League of Women Voters of Newcastle County, and we are pleased to have this opportunity to bring you this evening candidate forum for the school board race of Red Clay School Board District C. It's my pleasure to introduce Jenny Howard and Vic Leonard Sr., who will be discussing their positions. Before we begin, an important point that I want to bring up about the League of Women Voters. We are a nonpartisan organization. We do not support or oppose any candidate or political party. Our sole purpose tonight is to give voters an opportunity to hear directly from the candidates so that you can make an informed choice at the polls. With that, let's get started. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to make an opening statement, with the order of initial presentation having been determined randomly. Both candidates will have an opportunity to address each question, and each time the first answer will be rotated. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to answer questions, and each candidate will be allowed to make a 1-minute closing statement. Timing will be handled via Zoom, and seconds remaining will show on the screen. We expect the candidates to abide by the time limits, but we're going to cut you off if you don't. So this is being recorded, and it will be on the YouTube site, which is the League of Women Voters Newcastle County. It'll also be on the state of Delaware League of Women Voters site. The questions that come up tonight came from the League of Women Voter online voter poll, vote411.org. If you're not familiar with that, you should check out vote411.org and the website for Citizens for Delaware Schools. We also received questions from the public when they were registered. To avoid duplications, questions have been combed, and every effort is made to include all suggested topics. During the forum, everyone is on mute, and the chat function is on, so you can use that. Viewers, if you have difficulty hearing questions or the candidates, you can turn on the closed caption feature by clicking the closed caption button at the bottom of your screen. The caption text is auto-generated, so it won't be 100% accurate, but it's still very helpful. Next, I'd like to introduce Jill Itzkowitz. Sorry, I messed up. League of Women Voters, she's in charge of the election and voting committee chair, and she'll be moderating the questions. Go ahead, Jill.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. My name is Jill Itzkowitz, and I'll be your moderator. And I'd like to thank the audience for all your questions. There were over 35 questions. Unfortunately, in this hour, we won't get to them all, but thank you again. Let's begin first with opening statements. Candidates, please, in your opening statements, include why you're running and your qualifications, and you'll have 2 minutes. Let's first start with Jenny.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jenny Howard, and I'm asking for your vote for the Red Clay School Board on May 12th. I'm a University of Delaware graduate, a mom of 4 kids currently in Red Clay schools, and a former Red Clay teacher with nearly a decade in the district. I hold 2 master's degrees in education and a school leadership certification. But I'm not here tonight because of my resume. I'm here because of my kids and your kids. Public education is the one institution that belongs to all of us, regardless of your zip code, your income, or your last name. And I know it's possible when teachers are supported, when families are treated as partners, and when the people making decisions are honest about what they're doing and why. That's what pushed me into board meetings, committee meetings, public records requests, and the board's policy review committee. And here's what I found. Our district is making important decisions without adequate community input, without transparency, and sometimes without data to even back them up. Too often, families feel like an audience, to decisions that have already been made. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. I believe in co-governance, the idea that families aren't spectators in decisions that affect their children. They're essential partners. And a board that governs well brings the community in before decisions are made, not after. I'm running because Red Clay families deserve a board member who shows up prepared, who listens before deciding, and who tells you the truth, even when it's complicated. I have one simple idea that drives my campaign. Public schools should make public decisions. And tonight, I hope to earn your trust.
Thank you. Vic?
Hello, everyone. My name is Vic Leonard Sr. I currently serve as president of Red Clay School Board and am seeking re-election. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for the opportunity to share why I care so deeply about student success and strong partnerships with families across Red Clay. I am a retired 20-year science teacher and coach, and my family has been in the district for over 30 years. My wife, Elaine, is a retired ELA and special education teacher at AI Middle School and a grad of Conrad. And our younger son is a proud graduate at Dixon High School. In 2018, Elaine and I founded the Just Mentoring nonprofit to support struggling middle school students in Red Clay, helping them succeed academically and build confidence for life. Throughout my career, I have coached multiple athletic teams at Science Olympiad and created clubs that help students explore new interests. I was honored to be recognized as Teacher of the Year by organizations including the Red Clay Valley Association, the Delaware Nature Society, and the Delaware Astronomical Society. Since retiring in 2021, I've proudly served on the Red Clay School Board with a clear focus, improving student achievement, advancing equity, strengthening accountability and transparency, and addressing enrollment challenges so our schools remain strong and sustainable. On the board, I helped launch the Curriculum Student Achievement Committee, contributed to work-focused safety and security, and supported efforts to respond to declining enrollment, especially AI High and Skyline Middle. I also served for 3 years on the Policy Review Committee, where I introduced more than 25 policy revisions, and I was honored to be elected Vice President 2023 and President 2025. If re-elected, I will continue to listen, show up, and work with my educators, families, and community partners to deliver better outcomes for every student. Because every student deserves a school where they feel safe, supported, and challenged to achieve. And thank you for your time and consideration.
Yes, thank you for that. We'll start with the questions. The first question will be answered by Vic and then Jenny. What is the single most important issue facing your school district, and how would you address it?
Today, we have enrollment issues. We have 2 schools. We have AI High School and Skyline Middle. Both are the lowest enrolled schools in the state. And there's a possibility of these closing because of low enrollment. So we have been working on a plan. It's called a restructuring plan. And it was voted on with the committee to have the district come up with a plan to address these issues. The one that came up and everyone's familiar with was the McKean Innovation Center and other parts of that plan. And it wasn't very popular with the community because the community felt they weren't involved in it, and I agree. I agree that our district took 5 months to get any word out about it, and I think now that we have all the information or some of the information, I think it's time that we reevaluate that plan to make an innovation center at McKean High School, which would destroy that whole community in McKean High School. So I talked with Principal Worlds at McKean, and we decided that we would change our view on that. And it wasn't a good idea to destroy that whole community that's been there since the 60s and find another means to find an answer to our enrollment problems.
Sorry, time is up.
Thank you.
Jenny?
So for me, the most important issue facing Red Clay right now is transparency and the lack of it. Too often, major decisions are getting made before families even know a conversation's happening. And the recent example of the McCain Innovation Center, this is a significant restructuring and one that affects instructional time, special ed students, and feeder patterns across our entire district. Families weren't meaningfully engaged before the plan moved forward, and that's not how a public school board should operate. As a board member, I would require that any major program or structural change go through a genuine community engagement process. Not a presentation after the decision is already made, a real process beforehand. I would push for board meetings that are accessible, well-noticed, and actually designed for public input, not meetings where comment and time for public comment is an afterthought. Our community deserves meaningful engagement. That's the principle that will guide how I serve. And I have one thing: public schools, public decisions.
Thank you. The next question is, what changes do you support to make the classroom a safer and more effective environment for learning? And we'll go to Jenny first.
So to make the classroom a safer environment, I think that we need to have practices in place that hold students accountable if they are exhibiting unsafe behaviors, and not always removing a kid from the classroom is not always the answer. Like, I think that sometimes we could use our restorative practices and we can get more mental health counselors and guidance counselors in the buildings to really work with these kids and set them up on plans and a trajectory that would help keep them safe from harming themselves and other students in the room. And then as far as like school safety, I think that we already have a lot of good protocols in place, you know, doors being locked, that kind of thing. I know that we have to show our ID to get in the building, and we have to get the criminal or the child abuse clearance done if you want to volunteer in the school. I do think that's a barrier to parent participation sometimes, when that's a very confusing process for us as parents. But yeah, I think that we can always improve safety. I mean, I always want my kids to be safe. So
Thank you.
Mhm.
Vic, same question. What changes do you support them to make the classroom a safer and more effective environment for learning?
Well, being in the class for 20 years, I've heard a lot from my constituents, and I heard a lot from my other teachers in my school. And a lot of the issues center around support from our administration. I know there are some mandates out there in the district and statewide to lower our behavioral write-ups and referrals. And I know that comes on the backs of some of our teachers, and I don't appreciate that, and neither do they. So if a student is misbehaving and he's sent it out and he's back in 5 minutes and misbehaves again, then we have an issue with that, which disrupts not only the classroom and the learning process, but also the time for the learning. So I think the enforcement of that and support of the teachers, I know what we talked about inclusion years back, it was introduced with supports in the classroom, and that happened for 1 year, and then all of a sudden our supports disappeared. So again, support from administrators and from district, stop lowering our standards and trying to make quotas on behavior issues, and also on our achievement in the classroom, our academic achievement. We need to be realistic about what we're doing.
Thank you. The next question, you both candidates touched upon, and that was the proposal to turn McCain High School into an innovation center. Could you talk about what your views are on this proposal and talk a little bit more about it? Let's start with Vic.
Well, when I first started on the board, my first 3 months, there were enrollment issues at the AI DuPont High School and at Skyline Middle School. And I know that no one on the board nor at district were talking anything about it. We had 1,485 students at AI DuPont High School back in 2008. And then in 2015, we had 1,108 students. And when I first got on the board, it was down to 700 students, and we are currently at 543 students. Same at Skyline Middle. We had 850 students in 2015, and now we're down to 300 some students. So they are the two lowest in the state, and we need to address those. And we had a committee. I formed a committee, the attendance zone and programming committee, and for 6 months, and we had 18 individuals on there, community also, and we voted 15 to 2 to advance the restructuring plan with McKean as an innovation center. And we gave that, the board voted 5 to 2 to push that over to the district so they could develop that plan that was voted on by that committee. So the committee, the board gave it to the district, and then we sat for 5 months and waited for some results or some information about that. Sorry. Thank you.
All right.
Jenny.
Yep. So I attended every one of those committee meetings, and from the very beginning, I think there was a lot of people were positive that, you know, we were going to come up with some real solutions. But then after a couple of meetings, it was pretty evident that this innovation center idea was pre-planned and that the committee members were expected to go along with it. The other options were not even really explored. So it's a little bit unfair to say the committee all agreed on this one. It might have been the best option out of, you know, just a couple. And then the public didn't really, you know, get to weigh in on this because the survey that was sent out was only about the McKean Innovation Center. Like no other options were explored. And the questions also didn't really pertain to the Innovation Center. They were kind of vague. And I also feel that we shouldn't try to fix declining enrollment in some of our other schools by tearing apart, you know, a school that's thriving. So, and the last thing I want to say is this plan never addressed the real reason why we had declining enrollment, right? So it's a structural issue, and it shouldn't fall on the backs of our comprehensive high schools. It shouldn't be, we have to change them all around, because we need to look at the whole picture. Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. Do we need to spend more time on this question? You were both cut off. What do you think? Should we go on to the next one, or do you want to still talk about?
I would definitely like to expand on this because it is a big.
Okay, we have time, so we'll give you another.
Wonderful. So as I was saying, we gave it to the district to develop the plan, and they sort of dug their feet on it and not getting information out, nor did they include a lot of public members from McKean. So of course, McKean family felt they were left out, which they probably were. And I feel now that, again, we should not disrupt the family, the community at McKean High School to build back another school or schools in the district. So I feel at this point, the district needs to go back to the drawing board and come up with a new plan that will build up AI and Skyline by not tearing down another school like McKean. And we also have in McKean the Meadowood program, which is an excellent program. I visited there for 3 hours a couple weeks ago, and I saw just how they interacted with each other. And that is a great thing if you want to see something in action, where you had the buddy systems. And I agree that we do not want to mess with that community at all. They have been doing things right for since the 60s, and there's no sense of tearing down that community for the sake of enrollment. We need other plans so we can build on that. And we need to include jobs of the future, you know, pathways where there are jobs waiting for these students when they graduate.
Thank you. Jenny, you have additional comments on this?
Sure. So about the pathways, I just want to say that, McCain is already offering these pathways. So we really need to look at why our other schools like AI and Dickinson aren't offering those pathways and why we're not investing in all of our schools. I just feel that this plan really tore the trust that people may have had in their district leadership or in their board was really eroded with this plan. And this is one of the main reasons that I felt like I had to run, was because the community was not being heard. And it's not that the board didn't know that the community was not on board with this plan. They knew. They knew. We have been speaking about it for a while, almost since the beginning of the idea of the plan. So, and then the plan was moved up an entire year or two. It seems like there's some disconnect. And I just kind of feel like, we can't change our minds now because there's a political opponent. It just really erodes the trust and the transparency that I think a board member should have.
Thank you. The next question is, how do you plan to attack classroom absenteeism and student retention for high school students? Let's start with Jenny on that.
So I know that chronic absenteeism is a problem across the country, right? I think we need to look at, why kids aren't coming to school. And I think there's a lot of factors. I don't think that it's that kids don't want to come to school. I mean, there's a lot of barriers and there's a lot of different reasons. Transportation is one of them. I've been talking about transportation for a long time and how it really limits the access of kids. So there's that. And I think, we have to address the child as, the whole child, right? So what's happening in the family, and that takes time, and it takes time to build these relationships with families. And I think when families look at their school as an extension of their family, like a community, more kids will come to school. And as far as the graduation rate, I do think that our kids need exciting pathways and career opportunities and college readiness classes. So I think we have to look at our programs in our schools so that kids are on the right path to graduate.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Vic, the same question. How do you attack classroom absenteeism and student retention for high school students?
Well, this was another one of the reasons that we needed to address not only the attendance issue, but also the enrollment issue. Right now, we have a 51% attendance rate at AI High School, 59% at McCain, and 64% at Dickinson, which is very, very low, some of the lowest in the state. And being a science teacher, I want to know the root cause. Why aren't the kids coming in our comprehensive schools? This is just in our comprehensive schools. Our magnets and charters are doing fine with attendance. And a Harvard study said that 49% of our students in Delaware do not go to college. And that pertains to most of our comprehensive students in the district. So if they're not coming to school, what is it? They don't get into their magnet choice. They don't get into their VOTEC because the VOTECs are full. So I feel that they don't want to come to school because they don't feel there's anything there for them. That's why this whole idea of restructuring came about, and as part of it was the attendance. The students who don't feel there's anything in school for them. So let's create some opportunities. We create a lot of opportunities for our magnet schools and our charter school students. We need something for our other students that are in our comprehensive schools. So open up some pathways at AI High and at Skyline. So they want to come to school so they have something at the end where there'll be a job waiting for them with a certificate.
Thank you. The next question is, where do you stand on protections for LGBTQ and immigrant students in schools? And let's start with Vic on this one.
I believe it's essential that we address this issue because there's a lot of prejudice out there especially in today's society in America. There are so many things going on that we need to make some policies to address the issue and enforce them, because the prejudice it's just sickening to me. What we hear out there, it's just the way of the world right now, unfortunately, and it's filtered down into our schools. Our parents and some of our families are feeding some of this frenzy with prejudice, and I think it needs to stop through policy changes and so forth, and through educating our students, what it's all about, the history and so forth of prejudice in America. But it needs to stop, and we need to do something about it in all of our schools.
Thank you. Jenny, same question. Where do you stand on protections for LGBTQ and immigrant students in schools?
I really feel like every student deserves to have a safe and environment and feel seen and fully included in school. And LGBTQ plus students are not an exception, and neither are immigrant students. And I know that Red Clay has taken meaningful steps to create, inclusive policies for transgender and gender diverse students, which is great. And I also spoke out about a resolution for our immigrant students to protect them, because it is every child's right to a free and appropriate public education, regardless if you are a United States citizen or not. And I believe that our families need to feel safe when they come to school. So that's really important to me. My kids do go to school with a large population of immigrant children, and they are their friends. And, I think it's a beautiful thing. So thank you.
Thank you. The next question is, how can the board create policies to help improve student performance, especially with math skills and language arts? And let's start with Jenny.
So I know that the state sets the, curriculum, but the board could absolutely create policies around how much time is spent on, math and reading every day. And then also, just as a reading specialist, back from when I was in the classroom, like it was called something different then, education buzzwords. Response to intervention was what it was called back then. And now we have MTSS, which is the multi-tiered system of support. And I think that it's really important to catch the struggling learners early, because if they're not caught early, the chances of them catching up just slowly diminish. And it's really heartbreaking to see. So, if a kid is not reading by third grade, the chances that they can come back to grade level are really low. So I think that reaching those kids with remedial lessons that, are needed is really important for getting our kids to where they need to be. And then, having enrichment for kids who are already excelling. I think equitable access to those programs is also super important, because not every school has enrichment classes. And I think that they should. Thanks.
Thank you. Now, Vic, same question. How can the board create policies to help improve student performance, especially with math skills and language arts?
Well, the district is doing a lot right now with the science of reading and pre-K and early childhood literacy. And we have some programs that are working. It'll be our 4th year. And I'm looking forward to seeing those results when they come out the next month or two. But as far as creating policy, we can vote on curriculum and things like that, approve curriculum, but we don't want to dabble in the operational part of that. I know there's governance versus operational, and I think we are doing a good job with that in our early childhood, catch our students early so we can have literacy by 3rd grade. And again, I'm excited about that. But we have to get supports into the teachers and our classrooms, especially our low income areas where we need the most support. I know the Women Learn Co-Lab has done a lot with some of our schools in the city, and we've seen some improvement there. But again, it works if you have the right supports in the classroom for the teachers. And we have such a diverse population throughout our district that we need to focus on the areas where it's needed most or needed support. And I think we are doing that pretty much, but we need to see more in the early years. And that's what we're doing. We're focusing on the early years.
Thank you. The next question is, how can school boards create policies that help forge closer relationships with parents, their children, and educators? Let's start with Vic.
Since I've been on the board, I've been trying to find ways to get more community input and family engagement. And I know we have a policy for family engagement. I don't think it has a lot of meat to it. And I was hoping with this new board, we have new board members who are community oriented, 2 educators and so forth. And they have some great ideas on what we can do to enhance family engagement. And it's a big issue right now. And it's one of my number one things. I think some of our achievement gaps are due to not having those families involved with things they're doing for a lot of different reasons. You know, some of them have many jobs, they're working and so forth, or single parents or grandparents. And we need to focus on getting them more involved. If it means transportation to get to events so they can see their children or grandchildren, or going to them, you know, wherever they might be, to take some of our issues to them where they are. So there's a lot of inequity across the board in our district that we need to address. And a lot of that has to do with the family engagement. We have plenty of family engagement, and a lot of our schools are higher achieving schools, our magnets and so forth. But we have a lot of our inner city schools that we need to get more support to, and more support to the families, not just to the students.
Thank you. Jenny, same question. How can school boards create policies that help forge closer relationships with parents, their children, and educators?
Well, we were just talking about this tonight at the Board Policy Review Committee. We were talking about the way the committees are even comprised, and that if we want families to be engaged, then we have to make them feel like we want them to be engaged. So like just writing in the policy very simply, like the district will actively recruit or advertise these committees that you can be on to be, you know, involved in more district level things. Because engagement isn't just about, you know, on the school level, like there's also the district level too, and really knowing what's going on. And what I've found over the last couple of years is that the district doesn't, it feels to me that the district does not really want the families. Maybe they say they want the families engaged, but when you speak up, your voice is not really heard. And that's one of my main issues, is that I've been speaking up on things for years and there has been no movement, or at least what I perceive has been no movement. And so I think that we need to make families feel valued for them to want to even engage with us. And there has to be that trust again. No one wants to engage when the trust is broken. So thank you.
Thank you. The next question, this came up a couple of times. I don't think the board has much of a say in this, but should Delaware consolidate school districts as recommended by the Reading Consortium? Let's start with Jennifer.
Okay, so my stance on this is, well, first of all, it's going to be up to the General Assembly. It's not going to be, like you said, it's not going to be up to any individual board. But my thing is with consolidation, it's that word in general, right? Because Red Clay is a perfect example of small districts that were consolidated into one district, but we have upheld the silos of inequity from those other districts since they were consolidated. So I just really feel like if we're going to consolidate, then we actually have to become a unified Newcastle County district and not just a bunch of little silos of districts under a big umbrella of one. Because I feel like that's just on paper changing a name, and we want real change, right? And we would have to address the system as a whole too. We would have to address how charters operate and how our VOTEC schools operate. Like, if we want to really change the school system, the public school system, then I do feel like we have to look at the whole picture. But I'm not for or against it. I don't think it's my decision to make. And like I said, I think we need more info on how it's going to look and what's actually going to happen.
Vic, the same question. Should Delaware consolidate school districts as recommended by the Reading Consortium?
I was not a big fan of the Newcastle County School District. I thought we would go with the Metro plan, where we had a combination of Red Clay and Brandywine. And I had talked to people that were involved in that, the leadership on that committee. I thought they all wanted the Metro also, but when it came to vote time and they all went with the Newcastle County plan, I was kind of surprised because before that meeting, most of them told me, oh, well, I'm going with the Metro plan. So it was political, in my opinion. And I think it has a lot of issues with it. The main issue is we lose our identity as a school district and decision making. I mean, the state's going to be making decisions for us. Right now, we have the option and the privilege of making our own decisions here in our own district. And I hate to see us give that up. But there are so many issues with that. It's so far down the road. 2033 is a long way away. And there are issues with the pay grades. It's going to cost a lot of money to equalize the pay with the highest Brandywine pay scale. What do you do with the VOTEX? What do you do with the busing? There are so many issues, and leadership is another one. You're going to have a lot of different deputy superintendents and so forth. So I am not a fan of the Newcastle County plan, and I think it would be a disaster for us personally.
Thank you. The next question: how should school boards respond to community calls for removing any curriculum topics, subjects, books, and programs? Let's start with Vic on this.
Well, I feel, again, we can take public comment and suggestions from our families and from the community, but that is based on the leadership and the experts in the educational field, how we choose our curriculum. I know there's, again, across the nation, we have this idea that parents know better about what we should be teaching and so forth. But I think our teachers and our specialists who decide what we do with the curriculum, and boards do vote on the final curriculum. But I think that we should leave that to the experts, but not without feedback from our families. Find out what the issues may be with a certain curriculum and explore that and see if there's any merit to it. So I think, again, we have proven our way with curriculum across the country here and in our district that we should stay with what we have, but get input from the community.
Thank you. Jenny, the same question. How should school boards respond to community calls for removing any curriculum topics, subjects, books, and programs?
So I think that school boards have a responsibility to protect students' access to knowledge and not restrict it. Calls to remove certain topics or books or programs, I think they should be taken seriously as community input, but they shouldn't be the basis for erasure. So the First Amendment, exists precisely to protect ideas that make some people uncomfortable, and removing materials because they reflect the experience of marginalized communities is not a neutral act. So it sends a message to those students that their histories don't belong in school. So, I mean, I would listen to families and hear what they have to say. But I just think that teaching honest curriculum is, what we need to do. Honest education, and ensure that any review process is transparent, it's principled, and it's resistant to political pressure. I don't think that politics belong, political pressures shouldn't be something that, has us make a big decision like that.
Thank you. The next question, as a board member, how can you support diversity and equity in our schools among both educators and students? Let's start with Jenny.
Yeah, so I think that supporting, I'm sorry, could you tell me that diversity and equity, is that what you said?
Yes.
Oh, so I think that this term has gotten like a lot of attention lately, diversity and equity, but it's literally just that like we're all different and that's okay. And we can, we all deserve access to an equitable education. And I think that really starts with like looking at the programs that we're offering students in certain schools. And when we talk about, our city schools are struggling and, AI's enrollment is declining, I think we have to take a hard look at like why that is. And is that because we're not distributing our funds equitably? I mean, I think that those are hard questions that have to be asked. And I absolutely support diversity and equity. I told you that, my kids go to school with a majority Hispanic population, and I think that's a great thing for kids because it reflects the world that we live in. We don't live in a, one colored world or one ethnicity world. So I support diversity and equity.
Thank you. Vic, same question.
Well, I know we have a state mandated choice that we have here. A lot of people say that choice may have resegregated our schools, and there could be evidence to that. But I think as far as a board goes, what we can do is just look for our Title I funding, make sure that it's going to the appropriate schools, because we do have such a variety and such a disparity of demographics in a lot of our schools, and that a lot of that I believe was the choice that was mandated to the school districts. But it is what it is. So we have to deal with each school separately. Each of them has their own identity, and got to make sure they get the supports they need, and no matter what the demographics are, and make sure that there's equal funding for every student in the district, not just the ones that have the loudest parents or families that come and talk or are connected. We also have a lot of our students that families don't have that opportunity to voice their opinion. And when I first ran on the board, I was trying to give a voice to those families that don't have an opportunity to come to board meetings or voice their opinion. So I think just watch the funding and so forth and give the support needed at all of our schools.
Thank you. This is a similar question, very similar, but it's more specific. There was a lot of questions on equity, and this one was, how would you ensure the district provides equitable access and meets the needs of all students, including traditionally underserved student population, such as students of color, low-income students, and students receiving special education services? We'll start with Vic.
Well, we are living with that right now. Again, we have quite a diversity through our schools, families, and the haves and have-nots. if you want to put it that way. And the families with the loudest voices seem to get served most, and it's unfortunate. I'm glad we have organizations like the Women Learning Co-Lab, who have been putting a lot of supports in our inner city schools. And I've seen at Lewis School, there's been a vast improvement in scores there, and I think it's working through the Co-Lab. But again, as a board, we need to make sure the funding's there to support the children that need it most throughout our school district, but especially the ones with low income and families that don't have the same support that they have in other schools. I think we need to make sure to get the supports and the early childhood learning with reading and so forth.
Thank you. Jen, same question?
Sure. I think that equitable access requires more than good intentions. It requires transparency and accountability and a board that's willing to ask hard questions. And those hard questions were not asked when the Opportunity Fund waiver was passed for the last 2 years. So I want to be specific about what that means in practice. That means making sure that funding follows the weighted funding for high needs students in poverty and English language learners follows those students. Okay. So that money shouldn't be diverted to other schools that don't actually earn it. So I would ensure that those weighted funds actually reach the students that generate them. And I would also ensure that school level budgets are publicly reported so our community can verify. And also special ed. I've seen firsthand what happens when a district treats IEP services as negotiable. They are not negotiable. They are a legal obligation. So I would push this board to treat special education compliance as a floor to meet, but as a standard to exceed. And then the last thing is transportation. This is an access issue that rarely gets treated like one, but if a family can't get their kid to school safely and reliably every day, every other equity commitment the district makes is hollow. Thanks.
Thank you. Well, that comes to the end of our questions, and we would like the candidates for 1 minute to provide a closing statement, and we'll start with Vic on that.
Again, thank you to the League of Women Voters for the opportunity to share my views on governance throughout the Red Clay School District. Enrollment in our comprehensive schools is at a critical stage, and if not addressed immediately, schools will close and the fate of the buildings will be out of our hands and in the hands of the state. Jobs will be lost, and the reshuffling of our students across the district will become a reality. It is also critical that we solve this issue before the Ready Consortium is voted on, because once that happens, we have no say. The state will make decisions for us. I would like to encourage everyone to get out and vote on May 12th at the polling places, and make sure you bring your required ID. And I'm sure if you re-elect me for another term, I will stay laser focused on all the needs of the students and families and address the many issues concerning our school communities. I promise that school enrollment, student achievement, transparency, and accountability, as well as community input, will be cornerstones of my tenure on the board. Thank you for your anticipated support, and have a good night.
Jenny.
Yeah, thank you so much to the League of Women Voters for hosting this. I really appreciate it. So tonight you heard from 2 candidates, and I hope that what you heard from me was someone who knows this district, and not just as a parent and not as a former teacher, but someone who has spent the last few years doing the unglamorous work of showing up, asking hard questions, and demanding honest answers. Families deserve access to information about their own schools. I've sat in board meetings, filed public records requests, and serve on the board policy review committee, because I believe accountability isn't something you ask for from the outside. eventually you have to be willing to step inside and do the work. And one thing that I'll bring to this board is a commitment to what I call co-governance. And it's the idea that a school board shouldn't just inform families after decisions are made. It should bring families into the process before decisions are even considered. Parents, educators, and community members aren't obstacles to good governance. And I hope that you heard from me what you heard from me tonight.
I'm sorry, but your time is up, Jenny.
That's okay. Yep.
Thank you. With our time coming to an end, we're going to close out the forum. And thanks to the candidates and all who attended and asked, submitted their questions. I think it's been very informative, and the league is glad to have been able to offer this to Red Clay voters. As we said in the beginning, there will be a video of this forum available on vote411.org. That's the league's personal voting information website. And I encourage all the participants to go on vote411.org and look at for this election and also for future elections. On behalf of the League of Women Voters, thanks so much for attending, and please vote on May 12th. Thank you. Good night.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.